This is NEWSFASH, the podcast where fashion and news meet for your weekly dose of insider insights. I'm your host, fashion journalist Mosha Lundström Halbert, and together we're going to stay up to date and open to learn about fashion from a variety of perspectives.
Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome back to another edition and episode of NEWSFASH Live. It's my third time doing this, and it keeps getting more and more fun. And I'm so grateful to everyone that joins because you make this possible, because basically this is a rundown of the week's top fashion news stories. And then from there and interspersed in between, I just start jumping in, or you start jumping in rather, with all your fabulous questions. Anything you want to know about the fashion industry, careers in fashion, style, industry gossip, fashion news, it's all to be discussed right here, right now. So without further ado, as I give everyone a chance to join and hop on, and no pressure, but I am also recording this live, which will be available as a podcast. And there's a big emphasis on podcasts right now to be in video format as well. So I was advised by my producer at Spotify to do that too. So this is also available as a video on Spotify, if you get your podcast there, wherever you get your podcasts, and also on YouTube. Okay, so I'm going to start off with basically the most pressing and prescient fashion news that we have this week. And it actually just came out today. Usually fashion news and big news in general doesn't come out on Friday. But basically the rumors are swirling currently right now that Mathieu Blazy, who is the current creative director of Bottega Veneta, is the one that everyone is talking about to perhaps take over at Chanel, that very hot seat that since August, since Virginie Viard left, has been vacated. What do we think about this? Mathieu Blazy came out really guns a-blazing at Bottega Veneta. His first collection was less than 3 years ago now, but it was immediately a critical smash. I would say commercially, though Kering, the parent company of Bottega Veneta, doesn't extrapolate and exactly break out their figures. It does seem like there's a lot of growth potential for Bottega Veneta. However, they're one of the smallest houses within their portfolio. Obviously, Gucci makes up about half or over half of all Kering profits, but then they also have in their family of brands, Balenciaga, Alexander McQueen, why am I blanking? Saint Laurent. The two biggest are meant to be Gucci by a mile, and then next is Saint Laurent. But it does seem like Mathieu Blazy had really found his footing at Bottega Veneta. So to see him leave for Chanel so quickly would be a surprise, especially because, at Bottega Veneta, he's really gone for this very artisanal, craft-driven approach, really accessories first as well. Their clothing is not widely distributed. A lot of Bottega Veneta, concessions, shop in shops, or wholesale accounts don't even carry the clothing. The clothing, it's not an afterthought. There's definitely a lot of intentionality put into it, but it's meant to really support the accessories business. Bottega Veneta has always been an accessories house, really built off the strength of that Intrecciato, which is actually I have a Bottega bag right here, the wovenness of it all, the woven leather. Whereas Chanel's offering is a lot more diversified and robust. Bags are obviously a huge part of it, but then so are shoes, so is beauty. Bottega Veneta just launched fragrances. He doesn't really have expertise in that area. Not that you need to at a house at the size and scale of Chanel, but it would be a huge step forward for him, and we shall see. What do you think? I'm looking at some of the comments here, and people are saying that his leather denim stuff was A-okay emoji symbol. And yes, it was. But from his first collection, he showed those leather jeans that really emulated denim. And I think even if you look at the silhouette of that, and that was like almost 3 years ago now, that's the style of jean, although not everyone can afford or has access to the Bottega ones or jeans in leather, but that's the style of jean that everyone is wearing now, that slouchier, more wide leg style that he really put forth and I think helped catapult that trend. Having said, wait, did we find out who's going to lead Chanel? No, we haven't found out yet. But the latest name, remember we saw there was a lot of heat around Jacquemus. Apparently Simone Porte Jacquemus was spotted at the Chanel headquarters a couple months ago. And there was a lot of buzz around his name potentially, but it does seem like he's trying to raise money for the Jacquemus brand itself right now and seeking out a minority investor. And perhaps those talks have petered out. So now WWD's saying that it might be Mathieu Blazy. What do you think? That for me is a wild card. That is not someone that I had been considering. Okay, so jumping into some of your questions. Wow, nobody is in a serious mood this Friday, and that's okay because neither am I. The questions that I am getting, about Mathieu Blazy, Dev said that would be wonderful. He would bring back quality. Yes, I do think that the emphasis on quality of the accessories of Chanel has been somewhat lost. I wouldn't say the shoes as much, although a bit, but I would definitely say in the bag department. Okay, but the less serious questions that we're getting include, where are your glasses from? Oh my God, I'm not going there yet. Go watch any other video. Look it up. You'll find out. And what lip color are you wearing? I love it. What lip color am I wearing? I think I have on that ColourPop lip liner that I was influenced to buy from TikTok. And then I love this lip gloss right now, or lip balm called Squirt from MAC. And it's that style that I think came from Korea where you can't wind it like all the way up and down. You just wind it up a bit and then you go like this. This was in the Gabriette lip kit as well from MAC, which I got. The colors weren't right for me, but I really liked the gloss that was offered. I ended up getting in that color. Speaking of which, I don't consider myself an influencer. That's never been a path that I've been pursuing. But if you are interested in some of the things that I wear, that I use when it comes to hair, makeup, skincare, fashion, jewelry, eyewear, all of the above, even travel essentials, I have just launched a Shop My in partnership with this company called Shop My, which I was interviewed about recently for a piece in Forbes. And it got me thinking, should I explore this affiliate marketing space? So I'm doing this kind of as like a case study, and I'm interested in seeing how it all shakes out so that I have a greater understanding of that business model, because we all know kind of the like to know it, but I've found that to be a little bit clunky and not something that I've wanted to shop from in the past when people post those like to know it links. Shop My is a bit more of a curated offering and experience. So if you go to Shop My and you search Mosha Lundström, you'll find all the things that I recommend currently, and I'm going to continue to add to it. Okay, so we are getting more questions coming in. Thank you so much. Is Burberry going to survive? Thank you for bringing that up, because I do have that in my notes and we are going to be discussing it shortly and doing a deep dive because some really interesting news came out about Burberry this week. So please hold. Super Roxy said, but Mathieu is doing successful work. Why leave while on the peak? I know. Sometimes I do find that people leave when things are going really well and then they're not able to emulate that success elsewhere. Case in point would be like Riccardo Tisci, who left Givenchy, kind of wish he never did, although I'm excited for the Sarah Burton era, and then really floundered at Burberry. And then in the process, they went through that whole like terrible logo and rebrand and store redesign that now they're having to contend with. And you imagine how expensive that is. I really think, and I hope we're past that era, that just because you get a new creative director, like not everyone is a genius that's going to have a really strong sales turnaround for you, like an Eddielen, who basically does that wherever he goes. Like, maybe don't give these people the jurisdiction over your logo, especially for a heritage brand like Burberry. But I digress, because that's what we do on the Friday show. We digress together and fashionably late today. I'm quite late doing this live, but hey, it's been a week. Jasmine said, thoughts on Jacquemus being better at marketing than at designing. No shade. I love him and his brand. One needs the other, you know? I don't think in order to make money in this industry and have longevity, you can be siloed as a designer and only have a knack for one or the other. I think you need to understand the product market fit and be designing products that appeal to a key demographic and know how to capture an audience and garner attention in this changing media and marketing landscape. I don't know. I often find like I have a number of friends, acquaintances, colleagues that are brand founders in various parts of the industry, some fashion, some beauty, some lifestyle. And sometimes I do find that the ones that are around my age, like late 30s, will reach this inflection point where maybe they started their brand when they were like younger and had their finger on the pulse and knew how to really communicate using new medias in a way that was very compelling. And then something happens as their brand reaches a little bit more maturity where I feel like their way of messaging and their way of marketing no longer is resonant, or it kind of just lacks a zeitgeisty zing. And I think what Jacquemus is really good at is, instead of the consumer like aging up with him, although he's still very young, like around my age, he's continually appealing to a younger demographic. And he's doing that through the power of social media and his marketing tactics, making sure that the brand, when they do initiate new launches or do their shows, they've adopted a model that isn't just like benchmarking or going with the fray. There's a real emphasis on doing things that stand out and get people talking. And I really do appreciate that. And then on top of that, I mean, I do think that the strategy in terms of product with Jacquemus is he's really trying to flush out key products that perform well by offering them in just a litany of colorways. So it's very highly merchandised. But did you know that Jacquemus got his start at like Comme des Garçons, and he was kind of mentored by Adrian Joffe and the Comme des Garçons team? Adrian Joffe is the husband of Ray Kawakubo and oversees the Dover Street Market business that they have that incubates brands. So I think he's been really smart and savvy and had great mentors along the way. Mr. Medusa, I think that says, what's happening with Versace? That's another thing, by the way. We at NEWSFASH and those of us who are part of this community, we don't say Versace. We're not like the other girls. We say it somewhat the way the Italians do, even if we don't have a drip of Italian blood. We say Versace. And I find it just suits the brand to say it in a bit more of a sassy way, don't you find? But what is happening with Versace? I do think Donatella needs to start thinking about a succession plan. I mean, I think she is in her 70s now, no? Yes, the brand hasn't had a wow moment like the kind that Jacquemus seems to have several times a year that gets a lot of people talking in a while. The last one I can even remember was like Cillian Murphy and that campaign that he did. I think it might be a case of money and transition because of Capri Holdings, the parent company that is in such flux right now and tried to merge with Tapestry, the owner of Coach. So we'll see what will happen with Versace. Maybe Capri will sell them. I don't know. But I do think that their sister brand now, Michael Kors and Versace, are both due for perhaps a refresh. But then again, we are coming into like the heavy red carpet season and award season, although I feel like it's really year round at this point. But certainly for like film and somewhat music, that is coming up hot and heavy. And Versace really does shine when it comes to red carpet dressing, just because they have like dedicated ateliers for that. And also they fly out their seamstresses to do these custom fittings. So everything just always like fits the body of their clients and their celebrities so well. And I think that that is a way that they earn media and remain part of the conversation. Whether that translates to sales or not, I don't know. I mean, a lot of these red carpet dresses too, you don't see them ever in stores or even iterations. Like they're completely just one-offs, right? Just Charles says your bang combing is iconic. Yes, if you would like to, I cut my bangs the other day myself too, which is a really bad idea. So if my stylist Paloma is watching this, I apologize. I will come in next week to have this fixed. If you're watching this on video with me, you will notice that I always have a bang comb with me, and every now and then I just go and like fix my bangs because it's a bit hard for me to function when I feel like they are awry. Neat bangs, sound mind. Okay. Ellen said she misses Ricardo at Givenchy. I know, me too. Me too. But I'm also excited for Sarah, and we can't have it both ways. And what I would like for Givenchy to do is get the hell out of this whole streetwear space and moment that they've been in for way too long and return to the Audrey of it all. Like amazing, killer evening wear and couture, please. And thank you. Okay. Cloud says, can you consult? I own a kids shop in... Oops, I did not mean to invite somebody to be my guest. I am so sorry. Shreddy Remy. Ooh, oh my gosh. I didn't mean to invite you to join this live. I pressed the wrong button. Anyways, Cloud says, can you consult? I own a kid shop in Chicago, Cloud and Bunny. I do consult. I do have a number of consulting clients, and you can drop me an email at Mosha at NEWSFASH Media if you have any inquiries about consulting work or freelance work. Darmora says, hi, loving your fashion sense. Thank you. I'm wearing like all totem today, basically. This is a blazer that I often wear on NEWSFASH and totem pants as well. Just black on black, very easy uniform today. Germini says, hello. I'm a podcast listener. It's so great to see you live. I'm so happy you're here. So I've started doing these every Friday. Let me know if you guys think Friday is a good day to be doing these. I just thought it made most sense with like the news cycle and trying to be as comprehensive as possible and meeting everyone where they are. But I could move to Thursdays too if we think that would be better. Habeen says, what model do you think they're using to capture the youth? The model at Jacquemus? I think in terms of like the casting of their shows using, like Jenny in the last fashion show, I think in terms of like the memification of a lot of their marketing collateral and the way that they use video as well and AI is incredibly modern and catchy and sticky and compelling. Habeen says, is it about the people they invite? I don't know what that's in reference to exactly. Can you let me know? Michael Vision says, NEWSFASH. Yeah, I love when people come up to me in real life or will like tag me in videos and they'll say NEWSFASH. It's fabulous. Most people don't come up to me and say, are you Mosha? Even though I end all my videos usually saying Mosha Lundström. My full name is Mosha Lundström Halbert, but like it's just too much to say. So I often just opt for a clean Mosha Lundström because my first name is Hebrew and my last name is Scandinavian, and that's my heritage. So I'm just like, it's just half and half. It's fine. But most people, when they come up to me, are like NEWSFASH, and that's so fabulous that we have this like secret handshake almost of a code word that lets me know that I know that you know what it's all about and that you're informed in fashion and that you, even if you don't work in this industry professionally, have a keen interest in it because fashion is culture. And there's so much overlap, and especially these days in the world of like music, cinema, arts, dance, politics within the worlds of fashion. Okay. Oh my gosh. There's some great new comments and questions coming in here. I'm scrolling to the very top to start taking them before we jump into the Burberry news that we have to discuss. So if you have any Burberry related questions right now or comments, start leaving them. So Dev says, I feel like Laquan Smith would be a good successor for Versace. That is a really good idea. I love that idea. He definitely has the sizzle down pat. Laquan Smith also, like, he's one of the most handsome men working in fashion right now. And I don't think we talk about that enough. And he definitely has an eye for a supermodel, and the models love him. He's got the va-va-voom. I could definitely see that. Fun fact, Laquan Smith was like kind of discovered by the late, great Andre Leon Talley. Germini says, I feel like Laquan likes sheer fabrics and lighter looks and silhouettes. Laquan really likes to play around with different materials too, because he also did a lot of like that vinyl and very like plasticky materials as well. And he's done some heavier wools too. So I don't know. Brian Fenty said Versace Atelier is next level, and that's the red carpet department. And yes, I agree. And that's also their couture. It's called Versace Atelier. Germini says Versace seems dark and heavy and too metallic for his designs. I don't know. I could still see it though. I could still. Or I also think Versace could go the Jean-Paul Gaultier route and just like have guest designers every season and do capsules. I know from like an infrastructure and logistics standpoint, that would probably be a corporate nightmare to be bringing in like creative divas every season, but it would be fun for me and for the fashion news cycle and for us to talk about, right? Michael Vision said the fast fashion streetwear scene is over. Yeah, I wouldn't categorize Givenchy as fast fashion streetwear, but I know what you're saying. I do think that there will always be a big demand for streetwear, but I don't think that like brands that have no business being in the business of streetwear need to be trying to maintain such a presence there. I think there's enough key players that they can just leave it to. Kay Fisher says, I hope Sarah Burton gets Givenchy to what it needs to be. I think she can. I think she can too. I am so excited for that collection. Holy smokes. I get chills just thinking about it. Fresh Brandy says, hi, Mosha. Hello. Jasmine says, also some insider info, CEO of Chloe is touring the North American stores. Thoughts? Yeah, that happens often. I mean, even Bernard Arnault, who's the chairman of LVMH, he apparently does store visits weekly. I think it's incredibly important for high-level executives to understand the store experience. Also, like, I think one of the most valuable things that you can do as somebody who's interested in fashion or has a vested interest in the business of it is when you're in the stores, speak to sales associates. Like I love my conversations with sales associates when I'm on the retail peruse, asking them like in multi-brand stores, like I'll ask flat out, I'm like, what brands are the hottest for you right now? Like, what are people most excited about right now? Or like, what's flopping? What is not doing well? Or what do you get a lot of inquiries about? Or I get so much market research done that way, like truly on the ground, because sales associates are the ones that they're seeing how customers respond and interact IRL, or oftentimes like these days they use a lot of platforms to correspond with customers via text message as well. But I think that's a great way that you can glean what your customer wants, what's working and what isn't. Also, in the case of Chloe, their last creative director, and Chloe does have a history like of having new creative directors every few years. Their last one was Gabriella Hurst, and she redid like most of the stores. And then they became like a B Corp, and they met all these environmental requirements and sustainability goals that they were after. So that impacted like the design of the stores a lot. And I doubt they'll make a change in the store design quite drastically under Shamina Kamale. So I imagine that the CEO of Visiting Stores is probably trying to figure out how to make the past store design make sense with the current creative direction. Okay. Dar Morris says Thursday is a better day. Okay, good to know that Thursday is a better day for you, Dara. I will consider. Oh, Rodrigo said Thursdays, please, too. Oh, but Apple said Friday is great. So I don't know. Keep letting me know. I can do Thursdays or Fridays, I think. But the procrastinator in me would prefer Fridays. But if you guys want Thursdays, we can do that as well. Habeen says, who do you think are Jacquemus's biggest competitors? That's the thing. And thank you, Habeen, for bringing that up, because Jacquemus exists in a very fragile state in the market right now in terms of that part of the market, what I would classify as the upper tier contemporary market, is virtually like way less existent and robust as it used to be. And as a further sign of those times, Philip Lim, remember him? He was a really big deal for a while there in the upper contemporary space, like certainly one of the bigger brands that they had at Barney's in that price tier. He founded his brand in 2004, and it was just announced this week that he's left it. He's leaving it to his co-founder, who's named Wen Zhu, who was his manufacturing partner, who's going to apparently continue it. But what happened to Philip Lim? Why did that brand lose momentum? A similar thing could be said for, Alexander Wang. They were the talk of the town and some of the most coveted shows at New York Fashion Week for like a decade, almost a decade. They had a very good run, but I do think it represents how the market has really like split. And there's an emphasis right now, and I don't know if this is reflected in how you dress. It somewhat is, and maybe in the way I dress, between like high and low. Although I'm wearing Toe Tag today, and I would consider that like an upper tier contemporary brand with Uniqlo, which is probably, it's fast fashion, but it's good fast fashion, if there's such a thing. That might be controversial to say, but the high and low of it all has really made me think, like, where's the middle class of fashion? Like, where are those brands that offer a really good value proposition? Why are they? I spoke about this in the last episode too. I was talking about JW Anderson's brand being another example of one that I really like. But I think Jacquemus has a lot of fashion, is considered like one of the most talked about fashion brands, but they're still contemporary and the price point is much below. And obviously that's going to be reflected in the materials and the quality as well. A luxury designer brand. But like, why is it that customers aren't responding to something in the middle more? You'd think that that would like be the sweet spot. Why instead are people, more inclined maybe to splurge or to save? It's something to think about. And also on that front, Peter Do has exited Helmut Lang after just 2 seasons, which weren't very well received, to be honest. But he's a super talented designer, and he's kind of become, was the talk of the town of New York Fashion Week, and then he decamped to Paris. So I hope he'll go back to New York Fashion Week, and I also hope that he'll do another Banana Republic collab, because I like that. I also think instead of Peter Do being given the reins to Helmut Lang, which is owned by Fast Retailing, which also owns Uniqlo, what Peter Do should have done, or what they should have suggested for him, is give him like a line at Uniqlo, in the same way that that Christophe Lemery has a line. Is it Christophe or Christopher? Friday brain has a line at Uniqlo. Claire Wakekeller, JW Anderson, like add Peter Do to that fold. I think that would make so much more sense. And I think Helmut Lang, if it's going to continue existing, like basically just needs to be reviving their house archives and also like protecting those house archives. Who has the Helmut Lang archives? Isn't he pursuing art in the Hamptons now? Does he have them? We need to see. We need to make sure those archives are okay. Okay. You have a ton to say about this, so I'm scrolling up to read your comments, questions, and queries. Thank you so much, everyone that's with me here participating. Do you live in Los Angeles? Yes, I do. I live in LA and the UK. It's a great mix, I have to say. I've lived in lots of different places, but these are my 2 favorite ones to live in kind of tandem. Best of both worlds. What do you think of the Paul-like consumer who will boycott brands due to what political party they contribute to? I think that is a very specific consumer. I think most consumers are not that like educated or are going to dig that deep. I do think I think I think if you look at LVMH, I mean, Alexander Arnault, who is one of the heirs of LVMH, and there's succession talks about him, and I'll get to some of that news later. Like, he took out a box at Madison Square Garden for the Trump rally that was there. So I think that we're just all going to have to deal with the fact that brands, individuals, corporations, and companies are going to try to align themselves with the current administration. That's just usually how the cookie crumbles and what is strategic. And you have to decide if that's okay with you or not. And you decide with your dollars. Yo Girl Vero said, I met Laquan Smith. I think he's very New York, though, so wouldn't fit best for Versace. Yeah, he'd mix it up. You never know. I mean, the owner of Versace is American now. Capri Holdings trades on the New York Stock Exchange. So 2025 trend predictions. What's going to come back? You know, something that I've really noticed currently seems like it's going to only continue its momentum and emphasis is something I'm calling, I started to notice this in the interior world actually first, but it's translated over to fashion. It's something I'm calling low contrast neutrals. And it's combining like colors from a palette perspective that are all of a similar like chromatic weight to them together. So instead of like black and white, which are the most high contrast neutrals, it's black and navy. I'm going to show you my loafer and sock situation right now. It's black and brown. It's gray and beige. It's ivory and white. You know what I mean? It's like reducing the contrast between these neutrals. I see this happening a lot right now. And if you'd like to see some inspo from the past that I think a lot of designers continue to have on their mood board, and certainly in light of like the books that have come out recently and the news that there's going to be a documentary, not to bury the lead, but Carolyn Bessette Kennedy. Go look at photos of Carolyn Bessette Kennedy and you'll see a lot of examples of like what I'm speaking about with this idea of low contrast neutrals. I think that's going to be a big trend for 2025. You heard it here first. Did you already discuss Peter Doe exiting Helmut Lang? Yes, I did. If you missed any parts of this convo, though, do not worry. Fear not, my NEWSFASH friends. All of this is being recorded right now and will be shared wherever you get your podcasts and also on YouTube as well. Rodrigo says, what do you think about the Upcycling Mumu collection? I don't know if it's a collection, by the way. Yes, it was a holiday capsule. It's plastered all over my dear Los Angeles right now, which I don't mind. A city covered in Mumu works for me. And in these ads starring Emma Corrin, I think I have to be honest, I haven't looked into like actually what makes this collection upcycled, but these days, as long as something says Miu Miu on it, which apparently all Miu Miu products need to say, I kind of wish that wasn't the case with Miu Miu and Prada. Like everything having to be so logo-licious is just, it kind of bums me out because I feel like those brands used to be more like, if you know, you know, not like, don't you know that I'm wearing Miu Miu and Prada? I did just receive a very charming little kind of like bolero Prada jacket from the Real today that I scored for a mega deal. That is this like beautiful pewter color. And it has just the subtlest like triangle shaped pocket square, but like no logo. And it's from years ago. It's probably like 7 or 8 years old. And I kind of miss those days when those two collections could be counted on for just like having the most charming logo free designs. But what goes up must come down. We'll see. I'm sure we might even start to experience Miu Miu logo fatigue soon. Now that you mentioned Philip Lim,
Oh, this is Habeen again. I met Jason Wu last year very randomly in the wild. Yes, I've met Jason Wu too, and I've interviewed him before, and I've been to some of his shows. And they were also part of a generation of young, upstart male Asian designers that had a really big moment in the 2010s in New York. And obviously, Jason Wu, too, had that major coup of dressing Michelle Obama for the first inauguration. Image Blue said, well, now Wang, meaning Alexander Wang, is trying to rebuild his rep with Wangovers. Yes, I was at dinner with a fashion designer friend of mine this week, and she was asking me if I had checked out Wangovers, and I had no idea what she was speaking about. I was like, Wangovers? Excuse me? What are you talking about? And then she let me know that it was like a makeover series that Alexander Wang is doing on their social media. Sounds interesting. We were talking about, my friends and I, about just like how desirable those like drapey U-neck t-shirts also in the 2010s that he came out with were. And what a party animal he was. Like that was always very much part of his rep. And how that reputation ultimately led to, in many ways, his downfall. We'll see how the rebound goes. But I think his reputation is largely tarnished due to his own making. And that is unfortunate. That's very unfortunate for everyone involved. And if you'd like to learn more about this, you need to, you should read up on it because it's not exactly TikTok appropriate to continue discussing. And that's that. Okay, Diesel Lun Winding says, any narrower guesses where Galliano is going next? I think my most narrow guess would be that Jean Galliano is going to Galliano, the namesake brand that has just been quiet for a while now that LVMH owns. I think that that would be a somewhat like happy ending and allow him to, at this stage in his career, just do what he wants to do and really own it. Not actually own his name, unfortunately, because he did sell it, but own his work and not have to be making it under the guise or of somebody else's name. Because I think he's kind of earned that redemption arc at this point. Wouldn't you agree? And I do think that there's also like an increased demand for the bias cut Galliano Sex and the City style dresses, to have those on the market. And who does those better? If you'd like to see a really nice example of Galliano's work that he's done, like custom beyond his own Galliano brand, but that felt very Galliano, go look at Kate Moss's wedding to Jamie Hince, I believe it was, that was on the cover of Vogue, and you'll see that beautiful dress he made for her. One of my favorite wedding dresses ever, and I'm not a wedding dress person. Imogen Blue says, oh, where's Eddie Slimane going next, in your opinion? Also, the choice to replace him at Celine, odd. No, I think his contract was ending, and I don't think he wanted to renew it. I did hear this crazy rumor that he was maybe, that he had purchased like an apartment in Milan, and that he was perhaps going to take over Armani, because Giorgio Armani is in his 90s and still going so strong. But like, obviously that can't go on forever. And I think that would be actually so interesting. Of all the places for Eddie Slimane to end up, I mean, I think he could do an incredible job at Chanel. I don't think he wouldn't do anything revolutionary, but I think he would bring an incredible commerciality and a really strong sense of merchandising to that collection, and modernizing to that house, which is much needed. But I don't know, there's just something more interesting for me about him at Armani. Like, that just feels more fait accompli. That'd be more fun to talk about. I'd like to see someone at Chanel that doesn't want to do what's been done, wants to, in a way, do it like Carl did, in that they would take house codes and then just have the most incredible imaginative approach to them, that it would be like nothing that's come before. But
it would also feel incredibly familiar and right. That's what I would like for Chanel. Okay, I didn't get to ask you before, but what do you think about Valentino this past season, says R. Yes, I spoke about this on a previous episode too. I have started to have a look at the first Valentino collection, which was the resort collection that is hitting stores now. And there is this gorgeous polka dot dress. If you go to my Style My, which I plugged earlier in this episode, where I have all my affiliate links under fashion, I have that linked. I think that Valentino like might become my new go-to for party dressing. There's just some like really gorgeous things happening there. And I like that it's not as, I wouldn't say quirky as Gucci. It's definitely not as quirky. I like how feminine it is. It's really feminine. And honestly, that sometimes can be hard to find in fashion. And as somebody who personally likes to, I'm constantly in need of great dresses, constantly. Whenever I find a good dress, and this is advice to everyone, if you ever find a good dress and it's remotely in your budget and you love it and it looks great on you, just get it, because you will always find an occasion for it, always. So I don't know. I hope I'm trying to manifest a Valentino by Alessandro Michele dress in my future. R said, oh, that was the question from before. Okay, more questions. Thank you. Gasp, Armani, says Imogen Blue. I know. Isn't that crazy news? Apple says Galliano is a fabulous designer. All caps fabulous. I agree. Galliano is like one of the greatest living designers of our lifetime. Talent, imagination, storytelling, beyond artistry. And I hope that whatever he gets to do in this next chapter of his career, if he doesn't stay at Margiela, but I think the Margiela chapter has been quite beneficial and fruitful and allowed him to redeem himself in a lot of ways. I hope he gets to do something where he gets to fully express his creativity and have fun in the process. Imogen says, I just feel like he wouldn't go anywhere other than France. Oh, Eddie Slimane. Yeah, he was in LA for a bit, right? Who knows? He's from Germany originally. He doesn't seem like overly tied to like one certain place. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe he'd make them move the Armani Atelier to Paris. Can you imagine? No, he'd probably keep it in Milan. Milan is fabulous too. I think I'd rather live in Milan versus Paris. I would. I know I would. I have more friends in Milan. And I just like the vibe there a little bit better. Paris is for your 20s. France is for your 20s. Once you're in your 30s and beyond, like, I don't know. I prefer Italy. That's just me though. That's my is that my first hot take? I feel like I need a sound effect in these episodes when I drop these like real Friday hot take bombs where I just DGAF at this point in the week and just say exactly what's on my mind. Imogen says, and if like Chanel men's clothing, can you imagine? Haha. Yeah, I do think there is a really big opportunity for Chanel, and they've only dipped their toe into this ever so slightly and working with Pharrell, etc., to get into menswear. I mean, those tweeds. Chanel was the way that Coco Chanel came up with the tweed jacket is she was inspired by like the Duke of Westminster, who she was dating, and also jockeys and English people that she was encountering that were going hunting and riding, and their jackets. And that's why Chanel tweed jackets to this day. And if they ever change this, like, we must boycott, we must riot. Have a chain in the hem here. This is not a Chanel jacket, so obviously doesn't. But if you look, go to a Chanel store. I encourage everyone, this is your homework. Find your nearest Chanel. Go, touch those tweed jackets carefully, and you will notice that there is a chain that is fine but heavy sewn into the hemline to weight it so that it falls nicely. And those are the kind of details that make a Chanel jacket a Chanel jacket. And if you'd like to see some of the best photographs of Chanel jackets ever, go check out the Little Black Jacket book. I think all the photos from it are online. that Karl Lagerfeld shot and Karin Reitfeld styled in, I want to say like 2007 or 8. I went to the launch party for it in Japan. What a time. And you'll see everyone from Sofia Coppola to Sarah Jessica Parker to like men, women, and children. Kanye West, I think, is in it too, wearing Chanel little black jackets, and just like how universally fucking chic they are, and how upsetting it is that Chanel now, when you go in those stores, is like full of pink and purple tweed. No, thank you. Coco would never. Okay, that might have been hot take number 2. Diesel Lundwing says, did Marc Jacobs end the era of one creative director being the head of several labels? He was the head of Marc Jacobs and he was the head of Louis Vuitton and like Marc by Marc. And yeah, but didn't that also like do his head in and land him in rehab and with a litany of like health issues as well? I don't know. There's only so much somebody can do. That's why I sometimes worry about J.W. Anderson taking on too much, because he is so talented and so prolific, but like pace yourself. Or maybe he's like, no, I shouldn't pace myself. I should maximize my energy while I'm in my 30s and then slow down later on when that energy reserve is a bit more worn out. That's another strategy too. Who am I to judge? But what do you think? Rodrigo says, do you think Anna Wintour is passing her chair at Vogue to Marc Jacobs or to somebody else? Thank you, Rodrigo, because that was one of the fashion news stories that I wanted to discuss with you this week, which is I posted a video about this, which you can go watch or watch after this episode is over, obviously, all about how Marc Jacobs guest editing that cover of Vogue, which dropped on a Sunday of all days, which I think, I don't know, following the election probably got pushed out a little bit, the announcement. That had a lot of people saying, not only do they feel like Marc Jacobs would make a great editor-in-chief of Vogue, or they loved this idea of like Vogue maybe more frequently exploring this guest editor model, although the guest editor model is often done as a novelty for December issues. Like Victoria Beckham's done it for Vogue Paris and also Australian Vogue, I think. Sofia Coppola's done it for Vogue Paris. Kate Moss has done it for British Vogue. I think Alexa Chung has done it for British Vogue too. But it is a way of like really generating interest around magazines again. And boy, oh boy, did that do it. And the greatest thing was it had a model on the cover. Yes, it had a Nepo baby model, Kaya Gerber, but her mom is an actual supermodel. And I quantify and qualify Nepo babies differently when their parent was that like exact profession. So they obviously they have a lot of advantages, but they like literally have genetic advantages to doing that profession. And then they've like probably grown up on sets as well. And so they've had, you know, the best training in the books. And Kaya Gerber is one hell of a model. I think she's fantastic. I really do. I think her print and editorial work is great. And also she's like blossoming into a little actress as well. Isn't she on that show Palm Royale? And she was in that movie, I think Bottoms it was. Like, I think she's got a great career ahead of her. But that Vogue cover that Marc Jacobs was the editor-in-chief or guest editor-in-chief of, I'm sure you all saw it. Did you all love it? I haven't seen anyone say they didn't like it. I think it was just like the injection of joy we all needed after just like the election fatigue and overwhelm that was the past few months. But that got everyone talking because I know that Sofia Coppola is vouching behind the scenes. She works with Chanel a lot on like fashion films and campaigns and stuff. She has been trying to vouch for Marc to be in at Chanel because then they could work together too. But also I think this was Anna Wintour's way of saying this is somebody who we need to continue to celebrate and who is a creative genius. And even though he's done it all, Louis Vuitton, his own brands of every price point, still continuing to be a commercial success with his Heaven brand, Marc Jacobs, that LVMH owns, and then like continuing to just drop these collections, usually off calendar, kind of in the vein of the late Azzedine Alaïa, that are bloody brilliant and so avant-garde and expressive and polarizing and give us such fodder in the industry to talk about. I think it is a testament to the fact that he would be great at Chanel. Do I think he's going to end up there? I think it's a long shot, but I think he would be fantastic. And I think we would be all very surprised, delighted, bemused, charmed, and enthralled with whatever he would produce there. So yeah, Wartimer family, those are the owners of of Chanel. If you're listening, consider Marc. I also think I think he's in his 60s now. So it would be you don't see that happening very much. It's usually about these newer, younger designers, but I do like the idea of somebody in a later stage in their career who really knows who they are, being able to be given that kind of opportunity. But Marc's done it all. He doesn't need Chanel. Chanel needs him more than he needs Chanel. But I did love that cover, and I loved how it was just like this all-star team of collaborators. It was shot by Stephen Meisel, Grace Coddington styled, Pat McGrath did the makeup, Guido Palo did the hair. The hair was so good in that very Richard Avedon style way that they used to often do hair in the 60s for fashion campaign shoots. And then Jin Soon Choi did the manicure, and Kaya, it's the best shoot she's ever done. Career high for her. Bloody brilliant. Bravo all around. Okay, let's see what you all thought. Did you agree with me? Or did you think I'm just biased because I'm a Vogue contributing editor? So obviously I want to see them win. And when I see them do something that I think is really strong, I want to shout it from the rooftops. You're still waiting for my thoughts on Burberry. Okay, let's handle this Marc Jacobs topic first. Chicago says Shalom, beautiful. At first I thought you were maybe wanting to talk about Shalom Harlow, but yes, Shabbat Shalom. It's Friday after all. And Kaya has been working hard. Somebody says, a cup with Joe says, I agree, but I don't think she's the right person for the shoot. I would pick Lana Del Rey. Oh, that would have been fun too. I think they wanted a model though. And I think what is good about Kaya is that she kind of bridges the gap between model, celebrity, nepo, social media star. It worked for me. I have to say it worked. Zippo says Raf Simon for Chanel. No, Raf is I think very content being the heir apparent to the Prada throne. And I can't think of a more exciting mentor to have in the industry. So I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, before we do get to Burberry and a few more of your questions, Prima Donna says, hi, what are your favorite perfumes? Check out my shop. I linked my favorite perfumes. My two go-to brands for perfumes are Andrea Mac. I wear Coven and Supernova a lot, and Ceramic. But Coven is really my signature scent. And then Fischer Sund, which is another Icelandic brand that I love to just always spray around me. I don't wear it on me as much, but it's my car scent, my home scent, all of that. And that's Fischer Sund. And they have an amazing store in Reykjavik that you must visit. And I did a story about them for the Financial Times and some TikToks about them that have gone a little bit viral, where everyone accused us of being Icelandic witches. And you know what? They're not wrong. Okay. Oh, about Marc. Apple said, I thought Marc did a great job. Sad to say, I really open. I don't know exactly what that means. Maybe your brain is like mine on a Friday. Lepique said, it almost felt like a new take on the covers of Grace Mirabella with a modern point of view. I agree. It's it felt like it was a cover that was really covering. It was a cover that deserved to be coveted. It was a cover that I think people are going to collect. I will be certainly collecting that issue. In fact, I think I'll probably get two. If I really feel a magazine issue is important, I get two. Jasmine says, thank you so much for doing this. It's so insightful and interesting. Oh, I'm so happy that so many of you hop on and off of these lives and that we get to chat out the week that was in fashion all together. Sa says, are you excited about Givenchy? Yes, I am so excited. I'm so excited. I would die to be at that show. Let's cross your fingers and toes for me that invite will materialize, because that would be just such an honor to be able to witness that debut collection and report on it and share it with all of you, because that's what I love doing. And that's really the standpoint that I come at this from. And going to shows is a privilege. But I feel like the most important thing is that I'm
taking what I saw there and I'm bringing people along with me so that they can be privy to my observations, as opposed to, like, I have no problem with influencers and celebrities being at fashion shows. That's not that new even these days. But what I don't like is like when everything that they produce about it, or it just feels like it's just all about them. It's not really about like the creativity and the work on display that we're all taking in. And I just think as many people that can be at a fashion show as possible that actually can help decimate the messages, or also like unpack what they think the work meant and was trying to communicate, is just entirely more meaningful and allows fashion to be shared with the masses, even if you can't participate from a purchasing standpoint. With a lot of these brands, you still want to be privy to what they had to offer. And that's what I'm trying to do here at NEWSFASH. And I'm so grateful that so many people want to hear my insights and intel and chat through it with me. Okay, so I want to get to this Burberry news because basically Burberry's stocks shot up 22%. This is also in my latest fashion news roundup video you can watch after this. Upon the news that their new CEO, Joshua Schulman, who recently started like a few weeks ago, and actually this week upon the news, finish your thought, Mosha, that he plans to streamline their offering, focusing on the key pillar categories of coats, like trenches, and wax jackets and quilted jackets, outerwear, scarves, and accessories, but mainly those scarves and knits. Do you remember when, like, whenever the holidays would roll around, like getting somebody or receiving a Burberry scarf was a very big deal? Like that was a key gifting item. And it was a very luxurious gift. It's one size fits all. It's something that, like everyone's going to like and use and find, desirable and beautiful. What happened to that? Like there's certain brands that really, really, really need to maintain a strong positioning during the holiday season. That's such a important profit generator in Q4, and Burberry is certainly one of them. I mean, gifting is just so part and parcel, I think, to what that brand had become when it's at its most successful. And I think Joshua Schulman wants to bring it back to those days. But I know he's also like, they're cleaning house at Burberry, but he's surrounding himself with his key people. I was at somebody's house this week in LA for a trunk show who is moving to London very soon, to work with Joshua Schulman at Burberry, and had worked with him previously before, also at Burberry. So it does seem like they're really focused, but the market immediately and shareholders responded to this news of this new plan. But when I was researching this, I went on the Burberry site and I was just like looking at their current product assortment, because I am a Daniel Lee advocate and apologist. I loved what he did at Bottega Veneta from a personal shopping standpoint. There was more there for me than Machu Plaisir and this current era. I think there's some beautiful products, but like they're not as me, maybe. They're a little bit more like artisanal. But I love a lot of what Daniel Lee is doing at Burberry. And I do think the price point needs some adjusting and there could be more of a focus, but like just did a quick scroll and there's this Rocking Horse tote. I have the Rocking Horse like smaller bag that Burberry sent me and it's beautiful and I use it a lot, but the tote in brown suede, that bag. And then I saw this harness boot that I was like, okay, I need that too. And then I saw this leather wrap maxi skirt that was like slit to there, or you could wear it slit to there with a leg out, which I love to do. I don't like long skirts that just like completely cover. Like I need a flash of leg. That just makes it feel more me. And the skirt was lined in like the Burberry check and a flannel. And I thought, oh, how cozy would this be to have like your bare legs out in the fall, winter, and then it's kind of like a cozy blanket inside. So I wanted that as well. There's a number of really good shoes, actually. And I don't think that that's a brand where the emphasis is on footwear a lot of the time. Although I do think they could probably use more in just like the straight up kind of all weather welly category. And then, as I said in the previous episode too, like because they want to focus on outerwear, I do think they really need to make sure that they zero in on this trend of the barn jacket. Did anyone notice barn jackets since I've been speaking about them? Are you seeing them everywhere right now? Because I am. And maybe they could offer some more variations and novelty on that, because they have like their core quilted jackets, but those are available on so many different ends of the market. I don't think they have the same cachet as the Burberry trench does, where the Burberry trench is like kind of the penultimate trench. But I don't know. My husband came back from the UK the other day with like a navy Burberry trench, which I intend to steal and then sort of bastardize and probably wear like backwards and belted, or like over the shoulder. I sometimes take the Burberry belts off and will like tie them around my neck as a little bow around my neck. And then my husband accuses me of losing them, but I plead the fifth. I just really like to wear other people's Burberry trenches, and I have so much so that I even like stole my brother-in-law's Burberry trench and wore it to the Burberry show off the shoulder 2 seasons ago. But I do think that the Burberry comeback is upon us. My personal wish is that they stick. Joshua Schulman works with Daniel Lee the same way he did with Stuart Vevers at Coach, where he was last the president and CEO, and helps bring it to success, as opposed to just cycling out another creative director, because I think there's just too much like switcheroo happening right now. And I think that Daniel Lee can do it with the right parameters and direction and marketing and price points in place. Okay. What do you think though? Because that was a brain dump and a half from me. Okay. Lonerism said Daniel Lee at Bottega Veneta was a time. Wasn't it though? Wasn't it just? It just started to get really good, and then the pandemic struck. Ugh. But I don't know. I've given my cassette bag from the Daniel Lee Bottega era, like it's in hibernation right now, but I'm sure it'll come back and I'll appreciate it. The Burberry bags look beautiful. I agree, says Lapalique. Yes, and I like that they're not so overexposed or kind of it bagified like some other brands. They're a bit more, if you know, you know, and the logo, besides the check that they use sometimes. I don't know if I do a Burberry check bag. That's a little of, especially after the ludicrously capacious tote bag succession line of it all, for those of you that get that reference. But their closure is kind of their logo. It looks like a B, like a lowercase b, and I think that that is very clever. Lonerism says, lol, funny seeing people trying to make Barber jackets trendy having lived in the UK. It's so odd. Yeah, I know. I sometimes feel like I'm cosplaying like a country bumpkin when I'm in the UK, because I do wear like Barber jackets, but then I'll put brooches all over them and like belt them, and again, just like further bastardized British heritage staples. That's my speed. That's the Canadian colonial hooligan in me that just wants to take these British staples and upend them. So deal with it. Kay Fisher says, almost all my Burberry is from thrift shops. No one ever knows. And the thrift shops didn't either. I know, I found so much good Burberry in thrift shops in thrift shops as well. I mean, I was reading someone else's comment where they said either. That's why I said that. Okay. Someone says, I see him already developing something with hardware motifs with the shield bag. Mm-hmm. Yes. And I like I think that's the bag that like kind of flops over and it's got like almost a key ring there, which you could actually put your keys on, which will be helpful for someone like me who is always losing mine. Lapilique says he's quite the accessory maker, like Gasquier at Vuitton. Yes. Although I would argue that like Gasquier's best accessories were at Balenciaga, but I know what you mean. I think Daniel Lee has the ability to oversee a team that makes really strong accessories. I don't think that we've seen the full extent of his abilities
really generate a true product market fit at Burberry yet, but that doesn't mean we won't. Check out that rocking horse tote in the size large. Check it out. It's kind of Bottega Andiamo-esque, but a bit more simplified, and just looks like a great work bag, a great travel bag. I don't want bags very often, but I want that bag. So that is the news of the week. We have just we've actually overhit the hour mark. So I'm going to end you with the final story of the week, which is that Skims has announced, about 2 years too late, a new collab with Dolce and Gabbana. Big surprise there. This was like a plot line on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. The last time I watched it over a year ago, before that show just became so painfully boring. I mean, it was always boring, but it got really boring. Is that my third or fourth hot take? That like when that show was on E, it at least was entertaining. It's not even entertaining anymore. The more famous and rich these people get, the more boring they are. Seriously. The most boring show on the planet. If you're having trouble sleeping, watch the latest Keeping Up with the Kardashians. But a few seasons ago, they did have a plot line around Kim's Dolce & Gabbana collection and the drama that ensued with her sister Kourtney, because Dolce & Gabbana had done Kourtney's wedding looks anyways and kind of sponsored her wedding. So Kardashian. But this new collab is exactly what you'd expect. It's leopard print lingerie and slip dresses and bustiers. And Kim is starring in a campaign with Kourtney where they're kind of channeling their inner Sophia Loren. And it just, I mean, I'm sure leopard print Skims will sell just fine. I don't know why this had to be in collaboration with Dolce & Gabbana. I mean, but then again, Dolce & Gabbana, what am I saying? I don't like Dolce & Gabbana, but the market likes Dolce & Gabbana. Look, there's an audience for Dolce & Gabbana. Tisk, tisk, me letting my own bias get in the way. But, and also, I'm just reminded that Dolce & Gabbana, whenever I speak about them, or Versace, or Balmain, or Balenciaga, Chanel to some extent, those are the main brands that seem to be the most lightning rod here on NEWSFASH, the most polarizing. People love to hate them, hate to love them, have very strong opinions about these brands. And that is probably why it makes sense that Dolce & Gabbana is working with Skims, because it's like two lightning rod brands and people kind of coming together, or three rather, because it's Domenico Dolce and Stefano Gabbana, and then Kim Kardashian. So I think the timing of this all would have been so much stronger if it like actually had come out closer to when that season of the Kardashians came out that went into the family drama over the Dolce of it all. And now I'm just, I don't know, like leopard print for holiday. Sure. Why not? And without further ado, I'm just going to see if there's any last questions or comments here before we wrap this up. Oh, somebody says Dolce was 20 years ago. No comeback yet. I mean, it's still, that brand is still incredibly, I think they have like a loyal clientele who continues to support them and build their wardrobe around that brand. And I think that kind of loyalty is something that I have a lot of respect for, and their longevity in the industry. What I don't have respect for is like the kind of bigotry of Dolce and Gabbana, the men, and their inability to really see the errors of their ways. But I think some of it has to do with just like a language barrier and the fact that they're just like old white men that don't really get it. But the way that I know they make a lot of women feel beautiful, but the way that they've spoken about a lot of women doesn't sit right with me. And then even if you watch, which I think was the last episode of the Kardashians that I ever watched, the Dolce & Gabbana episode, because I was like, oh, this has fashion tie-ins. I should really watch this for research purposes, of Kim working on that collection. Just even the way that the designers were touching her. Oh, and the way that they were touching Courtney when the episode earlier in the other season where they worked on her wedding dress made me uncomfortable. Like, it gave me the ick. I don't like how they talk about, touch, design for, and view women anymore. And it's funny, that was not always the fact. I mean, I wouldn't have said that like 8 years ago. And I remember there was a time where I used to have a break during Milan Fashion Week when I would go, where I would actually get to eat lunch, because I was working at WWD at the time, like a publication that was part of WWD Footwear News. And the whole company had been banned from Dolce & Gabbana shows because of like a negative review that I think Bridget Foley had written most courageously one season, and they just banned her. And Vogue was banned for a bit too, I think. Like, they get in these feuds with people. They're very tempestuous, but they have their lovers and they have their haters. And if Dolce & Gabbana has no haters, I am dead. And without further ado, that wraps your NEWSFASH. Thank you so much to everyone that joined me. Oh, last question, Eric, that came in. My jacket is Totem, a nice Scandi brand that just opened a beautiful new store in Copenhagen. The interior design is impeccable. Thank you so much for joining. If you'd like to see more links of things that I am interested in and liking right now, you can check out my shop, at Mosha Lundström. Linda Lundström, that's my mother's name. I really gotta go. But I really appreciate everyone joining me today, and I'll be back next week. Maybe we'll do it on Thursday. Maybe we'll try that for more NEWSFASH. Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.
That wraps your NEWSFASH. I'm Mosha Lundström Halbert. Stick with me here and over on TikTok to stay up to date on all things fashion. If you have any questions or guest suggestions or feedback, please drop us a line at mosha@newsfashmedia.com.